It's 7 now.
Looks like everything's going.
Yep.
Alright, so it's 7 o'clock. I'm Tony with Giving Chances Farm. Welcome to our April live, and we'll also be doing some question and answers as well as they come up in the comment screen. Let's see, we got some of the things we have going on right now. We've got some more chickens in the incubator hatching out. The ducks have been moved outside since the last live. They've been outside for a couple of weeks now. They're rotating through the pasture with the A-frame tractor that we used for the meat birds last year. They're doing pretty good on that, so we're going to keep them out there for a few more days before we go ahead and integrate them in with the chickens. We've had a new baby heifer calf, Malie. We did a video on her and an update on her as well, I believe. She's doing really well. She's coming into the barn with Mom anytime we ask Mom to come into the barn. So she'll actually let you touch her when she comes in and out of the barn. She's not afraid of us. So we like that idea. That at this early age that she's doing those things. Even when Brittany used them to mow some of that side holding pen that we're going to end up putting the pigs in, she used the cattle last week to mow some of that section down. Malie come in there with chocolate, and then when it was time to go, she moved right back on out with the herd and never give us any trouble at all. So it's nice that she's going to learn that part of it, because the grass is starting to grow, so we're going to start moving them here soon. The temperature's been fluctuating quite a bit around here. I know right before we started this, Brittany happened to be looking at her weather app. We use WeatherBug weather app on our phone, and I think middle of this week the high is only like 41, 42 degrees. And not too long ago we had some 80-degree weather around here. So
I think there was some other YouTube channels
yeah.
that are in different states and said similar weather is heading their
Yeah,
way.
it's kind of a roller coaster ride right now. I mean, we went outside this morning, had frost on the windows even, so it's who knows right now. I know around here we normally don't start putting that garden into the ground, or at least even making an effort at it, until Mother's Day. That's usually kind of our go-to weekend. I try to have the garden tilled in and ready for her to plant by that weekend, and if not, well, at least have it ready by then. If we don't plant it that weekend, we at least plant it that following week. But I don't know with these temperatures, but I do know from farmers market yesterday, talking with a mushroom company that sells mushrooms down there. She said that when the ground temp is around 50, the morels start popping up, and she actually had some for sale at the market yesterday. So
While we was there, someone was in her woods that she knows, said they found some more popping up.
And I noticed that by seeing some of them come up for sale, wow, that's all I can say. They're a little bit. I like mushrooms, but I don't know that I like them enough to pay like I think around here I've seen anywhere from the farmers markets to Craigslist, anywhere from $35 to half a pound to $80 a pound. So
you have a question. Okay. Just Be Farm asked, can you explain a little bit what is winter pasture or sacrifice pasture?
Okay. Well, first off, welcome to the channel. Welcome to our live. And then for us, we use the area straight out the back side of the barn. That lot for us is 2 acres, and that is our winter lot, and that's also what we use as our sacrifice lot. And by that means, in the winter time when we're feeding out hay bales, that's the lot that it gets fed in. And as far as a sacrifice lot, so we go out there and we just started, I'm trying to think. We started a little bit more last year, but at the end of 2019, we started doing more looking at regenerative farming and rotational grazing for our cattle. So we have permanent fence all the way around the perimeter of the hayfield and the pasture. And then we use step-in post with equine rope as our temporary paddocks that we section them off. Excuse me. So if it's going to rain and be muddy, or at least the ground is going to be saturated with water, we like to keep them in that winter lot or the sacrifice lot. My reason for sacrificing that area, if they're going to tear the pasture up and tear the grass up, I want it in that area because that's the closest to the barn. That's the closest spot to my equipment. So that way I can go back out there. Because when the cows the ground is saturated and the cows are out there standing, they'll make divots where their hooves are. And then that area holds water until you can level it back out again and then get something to grow in there if it goes down to dirt and mud. So basically what we got to do is I keep that area as close as I can to the barn lot. That way I can take the tractor out there, I can put the bucket down and back drag it if I have to level it back out. I can run the landscape rake back across there if I need to. Whatever means I need to do to level that back out and be able to get seed back across it or bale graze it again so that we can put nutrients back into the soil and get grass growing there again. So hopefully that answers your question. A lot of what we do with that, we have learned by, we did the Alan Savory program, and then I also, the book, it's called Dirt to Soil by Gabe Brown. A very good book that talks about rotational grazing and how to increase your soil health, and it talks about compaction and how synthetic fertilizers actually do more damage than they help, because the big gist of that part of it is the soil becomes dependent on those synthetic fertilizers for the most part. So even though you're applying them, they're there, but the soil itself is not trying to produce those anymore because you're giving it to it all the time. So this will be our second full year of being completely away from synthetic fertilizers on the pasture. We just strictly use the manure and urine from the animals and rotate the animals around so that we can concentrate that into the area. And then what we used to classify as waste from the hay bales, we are utilizing that now as to be able to build microbes into the soil and better soil health. So every time we put a round bale out, that bale feeder gets moved to a new location, and then the bale goes out. And then that area of hay that they don't consume that's left over at the end isn't as thick as what it would have been back when we kept the bale feeder in the same area and we looked at that as waste. So, let's see what else we got.
That's it for now.
All right. Let's see what else we have going on now. Yesterday was the last day of the winter farmers market, so we have next weekend off for the farmers market, and then May 1st takes off for the normal farmers market for the year. So then it'll start every weekend, and then at the end of May, what is it, May 30th, I think it is?
I think so.
Yeah, May 30th, I believe, we start our Sunday market at a different location also. So we do farmers market at the fairgrounds in Greenfield, and then we do Frankton Town Market on Sundays. So we'll have a Saturday and a Sunday market every week. So that will keep us busy. We just recently this week received our egg board permit for farmer market. So now our farm fresh chicken eggs will be available at the farmers market as well, not just here at the farm. Let's see what else we have, guys. Oh, we're still waiting on our breeding pair for our Idaho pasture pigs. We put the deposit down on those towards the end of last year, and we're given a date, not necessarily a date, but a time frame that they would be ready would be the end of spring, early summer. So once we get that date in, we'll be able to make that trip. So it'd be about I think when I looked it up on Google Maps, it's a ballpark about a 9.5 hour trip for us to go pick those pigs up one way. So I'm sure that'll be an overnight trip because I don't feel like driving that many hours in one day. So, or as far as round tripping it. So. But that'll be fun for us once we get them, because then that'll be the first time we've ever kept pigs over winter, this coming winter. So normally we raise feeder pigs, usually get them around March and try to have them to market weight by the time the end of August, 1st of September usually is kind of what the dates we normally shoot for. And then last year we got into raising meat birds, so we've ordered some more of those for this year. We'll have a video coming up here soon this week talking specifically about the latest batch of meat birds we purchased from Murray McMurray Hatchery. So let's see. On the
got into our bees.
Yeah, I got into our bees this week. We went into winter with 26 hives. Up until this week, we knew we had 20 of them, we had 20 of them that were doing okay, but one of them was really small, and we knew that, so we were kind of keeping an eye on it, and it did end up getting taken over. They were robbing it out this week, so we got in there, and they had ended up, the hive died, and everybody else around was robbing it out, so we stopped that and took care of that. Caught another one of the hives, really packed out. Caught it just in time to make an attempt at keeping it from swarming. So far we have been able to keep it under wraps that way by adding some boxes to it. We actually added a third box to 11 out of the 19 and we'll use that third box to make splits off of it. We're going to try and go out this week, and the one that was really packed out, we're going to get down into that box and verify where the queen is at the time. We'll put a queen excluder between the second and the third box, and then I'll move one frame of the capped brood up with some nurse bees on it up into that third box, and then I'll have Brittany do a queen graft frame. We'll graft some queens out of that frame or that hive to start the preparation for our splits. That way we can put together some nukes.
Now, was that the hive that? Because we only found one hive that had swarm cells, but they weren't fully capped.
Yeah, that one had a few cells, and they were, I mean, you opened the lid, they were covering the bottom of the lid, covering all the frames of both boxes. I was actually surprised they were still there, honestly, because they were so.
I was surprised that they were able to start producing wax that soon, because it takes a lot of resources for them to.
And they were covering the bottom of the cover with wax, and actually she was laying eggs in those cells even. So it was.
Jespy Farm also asked if we sold nukes.
We have not sold nukes yet to date, but let's see. May 4th will actually end our second year of beekeeping. So we started our beekeeping journey May 4th of 2019 was the date that we installed our first 2 packages. So we started that year with the 2 packages, and then
split them into a
total of 4 hives, and was still able to produce 25 pounds of honey per original hive that the packages were in. And then we ended up purchasing some hives that year off of an older gentleman. We purchased 13 more hives. So we ended up going into our first winter with 17 hives, come out with 13. But we have been asked quite a bit over the winter if we were selling nukes. So depending on how these queen grafts go, this first go around, that will allow me to know whether or not we can sell nukes or not. We do have a large population of drones right now, so this first round of grafts should go pretty well, and if they do, we will probably offer nukes for sale, because I know we have had, just off the top of my head, at least 5 people that have asked us, and they're wanting anywhere from 2 to 5 nukes a piece. So Brittany told me I'm not allowed to expand the apiary this year. I needed to kind of
we can expand.
Hit the brakes a little bit as far as
any more production hives.
Yeah, I want 40 production hives, and she's trying to hold me at the 20 that we have, because I mean, I understand. I mean, going to 40 basically puts us into having a second bee yard elsewhere, versus keeping us at that 20, but also running some nukes. That way we can graft queens and fill in. Nukes are great to keep around, even in the production area, because if something happens and one of the production colonies go down, if we miss a swarm and we lose, that way we know what queens we have available. We can move that nuke over into a production hive, and it'll take back off like it never even had anything slowing it down. So we did a lot of that last year.
Because we was up to 38?
We got up to
nukes?
38 colonies out there, including nukes, last year at one time. And then towards the end of the year, we condensed everything down to where we finally had 26 going into winter. But let's see. We were also one of the fortunate ones for our area here around central Indiana. When it come to swarms, we were able to pick up, what was it, 6 or 7 total swarms last year. Some of them were our own swarms because they were basically, while we were trying to mate queens, they would go fly off and
Land on a
not understand how to come back to the box that they were in, so they'd end up on a fence post about 20 yards away from where they were supposed to be. So, which, I mean, it made it nice. They were about, a little bigger. Most of them was a little bit bigger than, I would say like a cantaloupe. So you just take a small nuke box over there, scrape them into it, and a day or two you'd see her laying and taking off. So.
But our grafting queen,
Yeah.
she swarmed.
Our grafting queen took off. The neighbor across the street told us she had a big swarm with her because she sounded like a helicopter when they went by his house. So.
But we did have another swarm that had, I think there was 3 queens in it.
Mhm.
So
The biggest one that we had that survived the winter was the one the girls named Queen Dolly, because that's the one, if you guys remember from the previous video we did last year about the swarm in about 30 plus
35.
feet up in the pine tree. That's Queen Dolly. She did make it through winter and currently has a 3rd box on top of her to get some splits out of. And also we even grafted queens off of her late last year, even for our late splits that we did. So but if you happen to be interested in nukes, I'm not sure if you're local or not, but we're in central Indiana, and worst case you can contact us on social media or through our website, either one. And like I said, if these grafts go well, we'd be glad to help you out. Also, if you already have bees, or if the nukes would be your starter and you need some help or have questions about certain parts of beekeeping, feel free to hit us up. I'll do my best to answer any questions that I can. Like I said, we jumped into this full bore, both feet, when it comes to the beekeeping side of it, and are making a pretty good business out of it. This last year we had 13 production hives going and produced a little over 1,100 pounds of honey. So we definitely went from being a hobby beekeeper to a sideliner pretty quick. And my goal is to be able to supplement my income if I have to at some point with everything going on around here at the farm, whether that be beekeeping by itself or the other animals as well in that. Let's see, what else? The other thing we had going on this month was I made some updates to the woodworking equipment. So I watch the Craigslist post and Facebook Marketplace post quite frequently, because I don't go to as many auctions as I used to go to now that we have kids. Makes it a little bit tougher on me. I'm away from home enough with my work.
You're on Facebook or
Yeah.
Craigslist. Just as much.
Yeah.
You
So
don't have to travel.
I'm on Facebook and Craigslist quite frequently, but it's it's saved us a lot of money that way, because I know a lot of what I'm looking for. I know the retail prices of it, so if I can find a deal, I'm all about it. So last week I did a video where I updated my wood lathe. The wood lathe I've been using to turn some of the stuff that I've had videos on was my grandfather's lathe. And it actually belongs to my brother. It doesn't belong to me. It's just here with me being able to use it. And it means a lot to me to be able to do that. and get videos of the girls using his tools and his lathe. So the memories that I've made with that are worth more to me than anything I've produced off of it, honestly. But it had its limitations for the type of woodworking that I wanted to do as far as the pin turning was concerned. So when I had went to the woodworking show with my brother, they used a Turncrafter wood lathe, and I've been watching them online. The one I was watching, it was a 10-inch, and it was about $370 before shipping and taxes and all that good stuff. But they've been out of stock most of the time in the 2 years I've been watching for them. And here again, this last month, I've been watching it really strong. I'm even on the email list this go around. When it come back in stock, they were supposed to email me. And I was sitting here after dinner one night, looking on my phone and on Facebook Marketplace, and see one locally within 20 minutes from me for sale for less than half the price. So I looked at Brittany and showed her, and she's like, just go get it. So I was like, okay. So I get over there, and then when I get there, the guy starts telling me, he's like, I'm not sure if that's, he goes, that's the price of the lathe by itself, but I'm not sure if you're interested in any of this other stuff or not. And he turned pins and bottle stoppers,
shaver
handles, and even had some stuff to be able to start doing bowl turning. So I'm like, okay. I'm like, this guy's he's got a lot of equipment here. He's got some time invested in it, money invested in it, and I don't know that Brittany's going to let me spend this extra money. So, but I'm already here, so I got to ask. And when I asked what he wanted for the rest of it, when he gave me the price on it, I said, I'll be right back, and I went straight to the bank. Pulled out the rest of the money, went back, paid for it, and started to load it up, and then called Brittany and told her I was buying more stuff. So it's one of those, sometimes it's better to ask for forgiveness than permission. So I didn't get in trouble for that. She understood why I did what I did, and because of the deal that I got. So anyways, we get home, we get all that put in the garage, and I built a temporary stand for it, long enough to get it to where it will be usable. And then a friend of mine sends me a Facebook message and has a picture of a full-size jet lathe. So I was like, okay, that's my goal eventually, to get one of those, but there's no way I can afford that. And I was like, because I know what those go for. He sends me the price, and I drop my phone. So then Brittany's like, what? And I show her, and she's like, you're kidding me. And I was like, no. She's like, but you have nowhere to put it. The garage is full.
It's full of bee boxes.
We got, I mean, it's start of the season for beekeeping, really, so the honey boxes aren't on there, so all of those are stored in the garage right now. So I've got bee boxes everywhere. I had to move bee boxes just so I could get the lawnmower out the other day so I could mow the yard. But so long story short, I did that video showing the update and asked for people to comment, telling Brittany that I needed that lathe. And as for most things, I'm spoiled. She let me have it, so we picked that up today. So
as I'm still waiting on a greenhouse.
She's still waiting on her greenhouse, but I've got two lathes.
My kitchen is the greenhouse.
Yeah. So right now her greenhouse is a couple plastic shelves and a LED light. But she does have some nice 1020 trays, so we got those, and we got some more upgraded
bigger pots.
4.5 inch deep pots today that we got on order. Or well, we ordered them today, so they should be coming in sometime soon. So.
Yes, I think there's
What was
like
that?
20, 25, maybe a little more than that, depending on
Yeah.
each cell may have more than one, but 25 Romas and 25, give or take. I think there was a couple of those that had a couple of those in each cell. So a little over, I say between 50 and 55 tomato plants. I can't remember. They're more like the big boys or the beefsteaks or something
Yeah.
like that.
And then you have 3 of the
3 of the
they like
the pineapple, yellow pineapple,
Yeah.
which those aren't for us. Those
Yeah,
are
they're for my mom.
And then I got 3 to 4 plants growing each of jalapeno peppers, bell peppers, and banana peppers.
Yep.
And all those got to be transplanted sometime into the bigger pots. That way they can grow a little bit bigger.
Yep. And then Michaela she uses
I'll just
a
go get ya. Get
she
it
uses
for you.
a 2-liter bottle. It's a Sprite bottle, I think,
Yes.
that she got a hold of, and she made her own greenhouse out of a Sprite bottle,
It was my Mother's Day present
Yeah.
last year.
and that's her green bean plant. So she has this large green bean plant going over in the window.
Even though it's a little early for
Yeah.
green beans to be planted.
And
outside.
actually, when I look down in here, there's
there's
this
3. There's 4.
main one, and then there's 2 more that have made it out the top, and a 4th one that's getting ready to come out the top. So she's all excited and giddy that she was able to grow a plant herself. She did it all by herself without our help, she said. So
Except for she kind of forgets to water it.
yeah, she does kind of forget to water it every once in a while, but Brittany makes sure it's kept up on for that stuff.
Mama
But,
takes care of it like everything else.
Yeah,
To the
she-
other.
she does like the fact that she was able to do that, and now she thinks she's gonna transplant it into a bigger pot to keep it going until we can get it outside. So we'll see. It's kind of nice that she's attempting and she's learning how things work. Now we just have to get her to think about the right time schedule when things can work. But who knows? I mean, if she transplants it into the right size pot and keeps it going, maybe I've got some stuff that we could build a little trellis out of it to get it on there depending on what size pot she uses. I'm sure I got plenty of scrap wood out there we can do something with to help it out until it gets a chance to go outside. So
Leanne is asking about how the new chicks are.
Leanne, so far we have 8 that have
Well, I
hatched
don't
out.
know if she's meaning the
Are-
chicks that we've hatched out the first time or the chicks
Are
that...
you talking about the ones that are hatching out right now, or the ones that were hatched out, that Katie hatched and that we hatched out the last time? So it would have been about a little over 21 days ago. All of those birds are doing well. The ones that Katie hatched out 5 of and we hatched out 11 this last go around, they're all out of the brooder box and over into the new
Where the ducks were.
brooding pen where the ducks was. And then Brittany even bought 6 new,
No, 8 altogether.
6 new ones that were
Blue to green.
blue to green egg
Colored.
layers,
Mm-hmm.
and then 2 that were a little bit bigger chicks from Tractor Supply. Like that was last week.
Olive.
We went to go pick up some chick starter feed, and that's all we went for, and come back with 8 more chicks.
She said the one's hatching.
And then the ones that are hatching now, we have 8 of them that are currently hatched out of the shells, and right before this started,
There's like
there was
5 or 6.
4 more that
Almost.
it was had about a half-inch crack, half-inch wide opening that was almost half of the egg, and then a couple more that you could see the pecks through. So they're attempting, and this batch actually, there's a couple of the ones that have already hatched that I've caught a few times going around and helping the others. So the ones that are trying to peck from the inside, this one will go over there and try and peck from the outside too and help them out. So and this batch seems to be a little bit more vocal than the previous one that we hatched. So they seem to chirp a little bit more than that last batch did. So let's see what else. But it's kind of neat, because for those of you that don't know, we actually hatch those out. Our incubator is in our bathroom, and we do that on purpose. That way, we have a better control of the humidity in there. But also,
We started
it's
it when
just
the girls was younger.
the girls still enjoy seeing it.
I
but-
still enjoy seeing it.
Yeah, I think a lot of times Brittany and I probably spend more time in there watching them than the girls do sometimes. But once they start hatching, the girls spend quite a bit of time in there. But I like it about, because let's see, today, Sunday, they started, what was it? Like, it might have been Thursday night, right before we went to bed, that you could kind of hear a little bit of
The
chirping. There was no pecks in the eggs yet, but there was a little bit of chirping that started on Thursday night. But the first one didn't come out of its shell till yesterday.
It was like late Friday. No,
Yeah, it was yesterday after I got home on that first one.
well today's Sunday, so it'd been
Yeah.
Saturday.
Yeah.
They didn't come out until Saturday in the morning. Yeah, Jesby Farm just said we are getting quails for eggs.
Okay. Yep. We have seen quite a few other YouTubers that do quails, and a few times we've been had quail recommended to us.
They're just a lot smaller.
Yeah, we have an interest in them, but just haven't quite done enough research on them yet to pull the trigger. Our newest bird on the farm this year is the Khaki Campbell ducks that we have. So I'm trying to limit myself to like one new thing at a time.
Except
I guess.
for this year, because we're getting pigs to overwinter.
Well, yeah. So we're getting 2 on that. But, I mean, we've raised pigs. We just never raised them through the winter. So, but the farm we're getting them from is in Wisconsin. If they can overwinter them in Wisconsin with their weather, I shouldn't have any problem here in Indiana. And but it's like anything else. You just got to take your time and adapt to what Mother Nature throws at you. So, but the quail eggs, definitely, I like the looks of them, but I've never tried one as far as that goes. I mean, we raise the chicken eggs because I like to eat them, and what we sell is actually our excess. We don't sell all of them, because
But we do have our egg permit.
yeah.
We've hatched more eggs out to have more layers. We have
Yeah.
another order of 16 for me and Tony to specifically 4 egg layers. And then the girls are getting their blue cochins, but
Yeah.
they want to do more of like show birds or hatching eggs to sell. So
Right.
we will have an abundance
Right.
once those other chicks that we get will start laying.
And I'm also trying to use the egg cells to put that money back because I want to upgrade the incubator. Currently, we use the Still Air styrofoam incubator with an egg turner in it from Tractor Supply. And ours is actually the early model, so it's still has just a little dial on there that you turn to be able to get the temperature, and then you have a little laminated card thermometer that sits down in there, and that's what you adjust the temperature by. It's not the newer digital one. So, but it's worked fine for us. I mean, we've used it for 8-9 years now at least.
Well, it may even be longer than that.
Yeah.
It may be closer to that 10. Cause
yeah. I guess it is, yeah, because Taylor's 10 now. So, yeah. And we've always had a decent hatch rate with it. But with us making that decision to turn the farm from a hobby to a business, just like with the bees, I mean, we've had these videos go out, you know, showing that we hatched eggs out to chicks, and then we had friends of ours was like, hey, you know, I'd rather buy chicks from you than buy them from the big box store, so what would you charge me for one? And I was like, oh, I don't know, I've never done that before. So we got to talking, and you know, and they're like, okay, how many do you want, and what kind do you want? If it's something that our, you know, I was like, because our birds we currently have are just a barnyard mix. I mean, there's no pure breed out there. So
well, we would if we had one from Katie and
Yeah.
Waddles. They're
Right.
the only two
that are copper martins.
that they're the black copper martins.
What's
But
the red?
it's Pink Sue.
Oh, okay. Alrighty. So
I just thought of something else, but I didn't
let's see, who else do we have going on?
far as
I think that's about it right now. I mean, with farmers market and 4-H, we had 4-H weigh-ins, and the youth quality care program was both back-to-back nights this week. So
I mean, we still gotta get the pig pens set up and the huts
built.
but kind of waiting on to see if maybe the lumber prices will come back down.
Yeah, get the lumber cost back down to a bare minimum. Let's see, what else do we have going on around here? Well, if you guys can see in the video or not, some of the smoke staining on the rock behind me. We had a little bit of an excitement a couple weeks ago now, I think it was.
Going in on a third
Yeah.
week, I think now.
I had left and got to work, and we had it was right about the time Chocolate was due to calf. So I get to work, and I'm getting everything going, and my phone rings, and it's Brittany, and she normally doesn't call me that time of day. So I thought, okay, she's calling me, I just missed another calving. And she starts the conversation out by saying, I called 911 first, and now I called you. I'm like, okay, what did you just say? So she says it again. And she says, someone driving down the road stopped and knocked on the door, well, beat on the door
Like they were
frantically
police.
and yelling, is anybody in there? And said our chimney was on fire. So we had flames shooting out the top of the chimney. Around here we're covered by a volunteer fire department. So when the call came out, they actually automatically dispatched the surrounding departments as mutual aid. And one of the surrounding departments actually happened to be already on the road, just finishing up another call, so they actually got here very quickly. They got up there, got the cap off, and dropped some chimney bags down in there and started getting it under control quick. So we did sustain a chimney fire, but nothing got into the actual house itself other than this little bit of smoke here. So very fortunate, very thankful that one of the neighbors just happened to be taking her son down the road that day, and he's actually the one that spotted it. So definitely can't thank him enough for that, because like I said, Brittany and the girls was in here getting ready for school and had no idea it was even going on. So everything was contained to the chimney the way it's supposed to be. And you know, then you always look back and then you kick yourself at, what could I have done different? And and it's like, well, the wood we're using's been seasoned for 2 years. We use the creosote sweeping logs frequently. The chimney is always swept before the season starts, and actually this year I swept it again in January just to make sure, and it still happened. Nothing we could really go back and say, man, we missed something, and it's part of it. So a little bit of excitement, a little bit scary. Wasn't something that I wanted to come from work home and have to deal with a fire at my own house. But after it was all said and done and everything settled down, we got to move on with our day that day. So and as we did, that's the exact day that Chocolate gave birth to Malie, while all the excitement was going on here. We walked out there and found her cleaning the baby up. So I missed it anyway, so, even though I was home. But it's part of it. So now we just move on and see what's going to happen about getting this fixed. So that way we can use it again. It's been cold around here, but we have the old baseboard radiators for heat. We normally just use the fireplace to kind of offset that, because the baseboard radiators is the only thing we have at our house that is run off natural gas. Everything else is electric. So if we run the fireplace, we can basically keep that gas bill down to about $30 a month instead of
no more than 50.
Yeah. So, but I mean, we still have heat. So, and it didn't displace us from the house at all. So, I mean, we were
thankful for that.
We were in here eating lunch that same day. So, I mean, there was just a little bit of smoke that come in the house, but nothing big. I mean, we opened a few doors and some windows, and they put a vent fan at the door, and in a matter of 10-15 minutes they had everything aired out in here. So that made everything go pretty good. So let's see what else we got over there.
That's it.
Okay. So let's see, what else do you guys want to know about what we got going on around here? As far as our honey sales have been going good at the farmers market. We've been having an increased interest in comb honey. So we have spoke to our mentors about that, and we do have some spare equipment that can be used for that. So we have already talked over the process on how to do that. And once we get the honey boxes on the hives and get a box filled up completely on one of the hives, we are going to make the attempt to try to get a box on there to do comb honey. That way we can sell it at the farmer's market. When people ask us for it, when we first started the farmer's market at the end of last season, I basically told them, for one, we're new to it, and that takes some special equipment to get it accomplished. and it's a little bit more time consuming to produce than the liquid honey is in the bottles. And to be honest with you, I don't like it. It reminds me of being a kid and going to the candy store where they had the little, looked like soda, they were wax, paraffin wax, but it looked like the shape of like a soda bottle kind of design, and it had the like Kool-Aid-ish kind of juice stuff on the inside of it, and they were different colors, and that's basically what that comb honey tastes like to me. Everybody says, oh, if you put it on a hot biscuit and spread it around, it melts, and
No, it still tastes with the wax.
I still get the wax flavor, and I didn't care for it, so we just didn't do it. But I'm getting enough of a request for it that if we're going to make it a business, I got to remember sometimes that it's not about really what I want as much as what somebody's willing to buy. So if they're willing to buy it, then I will try to produce it. That way I can, that's one more item that we can sell to them, and another way to get revenue coming in. So like I said, there's definitely got to feel things out and see, because I mean, like right now when we go to the farmer's market, we probably have the widest range of sizes of honey available than anybody else that's there selling it. A lot of people sell one size and that's it. I mean, we sell it anywhere from a 2 ounce little honey bear all the way up to 1 gallon, 12 pounds. So, and we have it pretty much every increment up to there. So,
Jaspi Farm says, are you going to be doing the Ross rounds? It'll be more of the squares.
We are doing the squares where I'm actually going to cut the combs. When I talk to our mentors about combed honey and the Ross rounds, they tell me that comb honey is a little bit more difficult to do than your just standard way of producing honey. And then the Ross rounds is even another step above that, that's harder, and it takes a little bit more specialized equipment on the for the Ross rounds versus doing the cut comb honey. I already have shallow boxes that we purchased and from somebody in our bee club that was trying to get rid of them, and I have excess frames. So basically the way we're going to be doing it is we will take the shallow box, and then the shallow frames that we have are actually the bottom bar on them is split, and actually this frame, bottom and top bar, are split. They're old Man Lake frames, if I remember right, but the way they worked was you had this board that had 2 nails on it, and you would slide them over the 2 nails, and then you would kind of turn the frame 180 degrees, and that would separate the split rail, and then you would slide the wax sheet down through the middle of both of them, and then turn it off of there and let the split rail close back on it. So what we're going to do is we're going to use those shallow frames, and we're going to buy medium wax foundation with no wire in it, and I'll open those frames up, slide that wax sheet down in there, and then the excess top and bottom I'll actually just fold the wax over. You put it down into the shallow box, make sure you have a solid honey box on there, put that box on top of it. The bees will take the excess wax off of there and move it where they need it, and then they'll fill that box up, and I'll actually use the comb cutter, cut it, and then we'll dry them, let them drain on a metal queen excluder on top of our decapping tank. So you let them stop dripping on that, and then from there we will go ahead and box them and put them in our freezer. That way we can finish them out that way. That's the way we were told to do it. So, but they say the Rouse rounds are a little bit more difficult to get the bees to actually draw them out and just use them in general. I've seen a few videos on them where people's had success with them, but I know multiple bigger beekeepers in our area that I've talked to said they have not had any luck with Ross rounds, hardly at all. So
Just don't know if that's just
Yeah.
our area or.
so I don't know if it's a matter of available forage for them at the time, or what. So I know they told me to try to steer away from them. So, but and then the request that we've gotten anyway for the comb honey around here, most people know the squared cut stuff. That's what they were at, so then when they ask me for it, they always shape their hands in a square and ask me for that kind of honey. And then there's the last request we just got was for chunk honey. So they basically want a jar of honey with a chunk of the wax down in it. So that is something that we are looking at for this next go around also. So but I told them that when I do that, that will be a pre-order item only. I'm not gonna put a lot of that together, so they're gonna need to, we've got the market every week, and I'll be able to give them an update as to when we'll be harvesting, and if they tell us that they want some of it while I'm harvesting it, I will put together however many they want to order, and then that'll be the end of it. I'm not gonna be able to do that all the time, because I'm not gonna keep a bunch of that around. Because normally, guys that do the chunk honey, they basically take the sections of in the capping tank, and that's what they'll put as the chunks in the honey. So, let's see what else we have. We've had some questions recently about our cattle also. We raise American Aberdeen cattle. So up until a few years ago, those cattle were called low line. And let's see, one of the questions we get asked the most is, do you have trouble selling them off? And my question back is, well, what is your end goal? Are you trying to raise beef with them and that's what you want to sell off? Are you trying to raise them for seed stock and that's what you're trying to sell them off as? Because we do both. So, there's pros and cons to both ways. And so the latest conversation I had was as far as for beef. So for us, most of what we have taken to the processor has all been 50% American Aberdeens by the registry's standards, because our first two, the cow-calf combo that we brought here, so Sunday and Chocolate, they were never registered through the previous owner, so they are classified as commercial cattle for us. So they start as a 0, and our bull is a full blood, so he gets 100. And when you cross those two, you take the difference of those numbers, which is 50%. So that's what most of our cattle out there are registered as. So with that being said, they are shorter cattle. so we get picked on a lot for that. They do great on small acreage. They do great on large acreage. They do great on just being grass-fed. They take the heat well, so we have friends of ours that are raising them in Texas. And they do well up in the Dakotas, where it's colder and got some snow on the ground right now. You know, it's, and they raise them clear down in Florida. They raise them all the way up in Maine even. So, and they actually originate out of Australia. So, they're very versatile as to what they can tolerate. And they do have them in black cattle, and then they also have reds and red gene carriers, so you can kind of have the gamut there. But for our operation, they work very well because we have small acres. We raise quite a few of them on that small acres, and are able to keep up their body condition in that. And also for being black cattle, we use Vitafirm's Concept Aid 5S. And then in the summertime, anytime that the temperature is 70 or above, we use the heat mineral in it.
Jesby Farms live in Texas, and they raise them too, so they know.
Alrighty. Well, it's nice to meet you guys, Jesby Farms. Like I said, we have, we're on a few of the national committees for the American Aberdeen breed, and so we're on a few of the committees with some members from Texas. So it's nice to meet you, and if you're not on your regional association and would like to be and not sure how to do it or whatever, don't hesitate to give us contact us, and I'll make sure I can get you into the right person, because I think let's see, there was a lot of the regions just went under some president changes, so I think your region just went under one as well, so
He said that's how we found your channel.
Yep. Awesome. Well,
Let's see how long they've.
oh, sorry, I was watching Brittany type instead of talking. But we've raised ours now for let's see, Chocolate just turned 7, so we've had our American Aberdeens for a little over 7 years now. So, because we bought her, she was not quite a month old when we got her, and then we bought right about the time she was getting close to that year markers when we bought Magic, our bull, and we've had him since he was 10 months old. So I think she would have been 11 months old when we got him, because she's a month older than him. So been very pleased with the breed. The girls show them in 4-H. We also show in Louisville, and are hoping to have the opportunity at some point to make it to junior nationals before their show career's over with. We had actually planned on going in 2019, and then some things changed that year for us, and wasn't able to make it. With my work schedule, it just didn't fall into the right time frame for me. So, but very much enjoy them. It was nice this year. If you look at some of our videos where we've been working the calves this year, the girls decided the fall calves from last year was going to be their job to halter break them, so they did all the halter breaking themselves this go around. I got last year's spring calves because with COVID last year I slacked off since we weren't going to very many shows, so I left last year's spring calves until January this year. So they were about 400 plus pounds by the time I started halter breaking them. And the girls were a little bit intimidated by them, but they took the fall calves and did a good job. I was very excited to watch them. It's one of those bittersweet moments, you know. You try to show them things as they grow, and then when it's their time to show you what they've learned, you're a little hesitant on allowing them to do it, but at the same time, you're proud that when they're willing to do it and they jump in there and they get it done very well. So it makes you proud, but it also takes over my time. That was my thing, was breaking the cows. I liked it, but because it's a bonding experience, and now they get that instead of me. So.
They said they bought a herd from a friend that had 7 cows, 2 heifers, and 2 bulls. So y'all jumped into it.
Yeah, nice. What bloodline are the bulls from? Our bull Magic, his sire is Easy Magic 8S, which tracks back to Easy Efforts Ranch, which is Neil Efforts. He runs a lot of the livestock auctions for American Aberdeen cattle, and he's one of the original farms that actually helped bring some of them over from Australia, 19, 20 some years ago. I'm trying not to speak too much to his age, but yeah, it was in the ballpark of 19, 20 plus years ago that he was involved in bringing some over, and we actually made our purchase from a farm over in Illinois, is where our bull came from, and that sire to him produced a lot of great calves for him, and we enjoyed the bull. And then our from the cow side here, the original cow calf, they have Doc Holliday bloodline in their pedigree, and the first bull we actually used here was Doc's Hoosier Pride. So it was one of Doc Holliday's sons.
They got some of Lazy G.
Okay.
And
yep.
some lines of Alta Demolition.
Yep. So Lazy G is out of Washington, if I remember right off the top of my head.
And they're all full bloods.
Yep. I know. I've talked with him on Facebook a few times. Yeah. Glenn, and all full blood herd, huh? That is our goal. Well, ish. I still like some of our, like as far as one of the cows that we have here, it was actually Chocolate's very first calf. It was a heifer calf, Cheyenne. And that was Michaela's very first show heifer, show cow at all, when she was in mini 4-H. So she has told me over and over again that that cow's not allowed to be sold. It will stay here forever. And since then, that girl has been blessed with a number of steer calves, because Cheyenne was born 5 years ago, and Maylee was the first heifer calf that Chocolate has produced since Cheyenne. I think Cheyenne, or Chocolate, has felt sorry for me, knowing that if she produces another heifer, I'll probably have to try to keep her, which means we'll have to make a bull swap here soon, so we can get some different genetics here. But yeah, she has produced quite a bit of beef for our family, and this year was the first time that we had the opportunity to sell off one of our steers for beef, and I was pretty impressed with him. We sold a steer off, and with that, I made the appointment for the processor. They agreed upon, and included in the price of the animal was me transporting it to the processor, and then they took over all the cost of processing and picking it up and all of that. I just had to transport it there. So when they did receive the meat from that steer, they contacted us within a couple weeks, and they had tried the steaks and the roast and some of the ground meat, and thanked us for raising such a great animal, and a great tasting animal at that. So
They said they used to raise Jersey for milk, but it is too much for them, and then want to know if we recommend moderators.
It just depends really on the moderator side of it. We have friends of ours that live in Ohio, and they raise some moderators, which, well, I'm trying to think.
They have Angus.
Yeah, back before we made the switch to the Aberdeen name, and now have the category of Aberdeen Plus. I'd have to talk to him again and see how theirs are categorized, because they are crosses between American Aberdeen and the Angus breed, and he shoots for that 1,000 to 1,100 pound cow, and that's what they run their freezer beef program off of, on an all grass fed operation. And they raise enough freezer beef that now they're running, I think, two or three. I think at least two farmers markets a weekend now, because they actually split up. I think he goes to one market and she goes to the other, and they're on the same day, if I remember right. So they're doing very well with that, and that's their market as far as that size. Versus for us, even though ours are classified as that moderator size, or as percentage, at 22 to 25 months, we still have a 700 pound live weight, and that works for us. For us to process one out for ourselves, for our family of 4, works out very good for us.
We've averaged about 60%.
Yeah, we get about 60% back in meat,
from live weight,
and we have done very well with that. And around here, a lot of times you have people that ask for half a cow instead of a whole cow. To a lot of the bigger breeders. So if you already have somebody that's, looking for a smaller portion to begin with, if we've got that smaller weight, we do well with selling it. We have not yet had trouble selling off animal for beef. Actually, we have a waiting list already for the next couple of years. Even we've already got people on the waiting list that want our animals. As far as selling them for seed stock, we haven't had any trouble with that either. Over the last 3 years, we have sold off
it was 3 last year.
5 total, 4 heifers and 1 cow as breeding stock, and actually sold them to the same family. The first year that they contacted us, we sold 1 heifer. The following year, he contacted me back, bought another one. And then last year, during COVID, he contacted me again and asked me for a list of what I had for sale at that time. I hadn't even thought of it yet. And so I talked it over with Brittany and the girls, because The way that we run things around here really is that original cow calf. Anything that comes out of Sunday, we let Taylor show, and she is allowed to help us make decisions on whether or not we sell or not. And anything that comes out of chocolate belongs to, well, is under management, I guess you would say, for lack of better terms, of Michaela. So if it's a heifer calf and she wants to show it, she registers it. And then if it's a steer, then we talk about when we sell it or if we don't. And then after she's done showing is usually when we will either make the decision to sell that heifer off or keep it. But last year it was right at the time for 4-H, so we did the virtual show and then sent him a list, and we sold off Taylor's first show calf, and she had a calf on her side, and then one of Michaela's heifers also went to the same farm. And I knew he had a small trailer. He only had, like, I think the trailer he normally brings over here to pick them up in is just a little small 2-horse trailer. So I told him, I was like, well, I know you only live about 12 minutes from me, so the price I give you includes delivery. And he said, okay. Set up the time, and I loaded up the trailer, loaded up the cows, and we met there, which was really nice, because then we got to talk about their farm that day while we were there. He give us a tour of his farm. I got to see the 2 cows we had sold him over the past couple of years. Got to see their goat operation, and then now we have a couple dairy goats. After we went over there and the girls seen them do some milking, they decided they wanted to do that as well.
So that goes back to,
yeah.
You said you used to raise
Jersey.
jerseys. Now the girls have
Yes.
asked to have a cow for milk production, but we was like, I don't know if you're gonna be responsible enough, and that's a lot of work twice a day. So that's how we ended up with the dairy
goat. Yep. But I do think, depending on the dairy goat side of it, I don't mind the dairy goat milk. Brittany, not quite a fan of it as much as I am. I
like it the first 2, maybe 3 days.
I could very well see at a point, if we move forward and move away from this farm to more acreage, I could definitely see a Jersey in our future,
but not a full size.
And I was thinking along the lines of a mini Jersey. To the point I've sold
it's
a few.
A lot of work.
Yeah, well, I mean
so is Doug.
We hand milked the dairy goats twice a day. Last year when we first got her, because the first goat, first Toggenburg that we purchased was in milk when we got her, so we milked her, and then she's actually pregnant right now. She's due to kid the first part of June, so we'll be back to milking again. So I'm actually looking forward to it. And then the other side of that is, if I have to, Brittany stays at home, so she takes care of the animals way more than any of the rest of us.
I'm the farmer.
She's the jack of all trades, master of none. But
hey, I have a degree. I just don't use it.
Yeah. No, I'm just teaser. Just a little bit of humor there, since I'm a paramedic and she's really nothing. But or RN. So we do bicker back and forth, just jokingly. I mean, we've been married for over 20 years now, so she hasn't killed me yet, so I think I should be okay for another day or two. So, but we think that at some point a dairy cow would be kind of nice, and then depending on that would be whether or not we would do, because when it comes to the cow side of it, you know, initially I would just do a calf share on that. So I'm not, and the same, my thoughts are still the same with the dairy goat too, because even though the girls want to show the dairy goat,
They're laughing.
They like to, a lot of people in the show side of it, when the doe kids, they'll let them get the colostrum and then they'll pull them pretty quick and they'll turn them into a bottle baby, because they don't want the kid to damage the doe's teat and udders and everything, so that they have the show side of it. My thoughts on that are a little bit different. My thoughts on that is I'm looking for genetics that I can allow that mom to do her job and raise that kid. And if she can't or doesn't want to, then we need to move to a different doe.
Now we do understand there are
certain circumstances. I mean, I'm still going to step in and that kid's going to be cared for, don't get me wrong, but
if something would
I
happen
need it to
her.
be able to, that's the kind of stock that I want around here is going to be able to take care of themselves, because we, with the rotational grazing side of it, we are trying to do our best, even though we have pinned them up, to try to simulate that natural grazing. So with the cows, the reason we rotate them from pen to pen and we really tighten them down to use that urine and feces and group it together, but we move them off of that way they move and leave the urine and feces here and the other pests that produce, so that we can minimize the amount of wormer and other things that we need to do to keep that animal healthy. Because in nature, when they were out running around before we got involved in the mix as humans and started catching them and corralling animals and stuff, they had predators that would chase them, so they would eat here and then they'd be on the move. They'd be on to the next area, because if they didn't, they were somebody else's lunch. So we try to mimic that, and with the predator side of that, they didn't spread out real wide either. They stayed tied in groups, that way they could protect each other if a predator did come in there. There was strength in numbers, you know. So
He said like mob grazing. Yeah,
yes, very much so, like mob grazing. So with that, you know, you kind of look at your cattle in a little bit different manner than just, I've got 5 acres out there, I want to have them in a pasture, I just open the gate and turn them out there. Well, okay, that's fine, but then you're going to have weeds in that area eventually, unless you're spraying or doing something else to it, because they're going to pick and choose what they want to eat. And then in about 3 days, when that blade of grass that they bit the first time is starting to grow back, they're going to go back over there and they're going to bite that same blade of grass again, because that's a juvenile blade and that's a lot sweeter tasting to them, and they're like, man, that is really good stuff. So they're going to go and bite that again. So it damages the grass, because what you have above ground is pretty much equivalent to what you have below ground to an extent, as far as your root system is concerned, on height. If you keep damaging it, then the root system shortens up. The other side of that is, if they're staying in that same area all the time, you either have to make a conscious effort to go out there and spread that manure out and bust it up, or otherwise you're going to have pests that are coming through in that. So that's why part of our system that I'm trying to get pushed into place is I want to be able to use those chicken tractors to move through our pasture and bust up those manure piles. So when I move the cows off of one, a couple of days later, I should be able to bring the chickens through that same paddock and let them scratch
Eat
through the manure and eat the larvae, fly larvae, and keep down the flies and the other pests out there.
And then try and rotate the goats through to
Yep.
eat those stemmy.
And then with the multi-species around here, if I can get everybody on a rotation and figure out, it'll take a little bit of getting used to as to who's going to do what better. Because even the pigs, we like the pasture-raised pork, so the Idaho pasture pigs, they've got that shorter upturned snout, so they graze, they don't root. If they're rooting and digging, then that means they're mineral deficient, so we need to make sure that their minerals are in check, and then that stops that. So we should be able to eventually add them into our rotation around here. That way we have different species that are naturally going to go for different species of plants. So in overall, we should be able to get everything under control. That way our weed eater is a 4-legged one, not a 2-legged one carrying one around, wasting more fuel. So
Mom says, I want a rotation.
yes. So we try to, and it, it's a lot of time. I mean, when we're moving cows every day, sometimes twice a day, and
Just
like right now with the ducks in the
growth.
even with the ducks in the little A-frame chicken tractor, they're moving twice a day right now. When we go to feed, we move them, so that way they're on fresh grass and they're able to get away from their own feces. So basically, even right now, the ducks are mob grazing. So let's see, what else do we have going on? That's about it right now, other than trying to rebuild some different chicken enclosures that we bought to use as like tractor style stuff. So let's see what time. About an hour and a half. So what's it got there?
He says we're actually simplifying our animals. We had so many projects at the same time and it was overwhelming.
No filling.
Yes, definitely. We understand that. We have a few that get a little bit busy at times, especially with adding the meat birds last year and actually processing here on the farm versus in the past when we had processed birds, we actually used the local processor and did it. And then, we were taking them to the processor, and back then it was costing us about $3 a bird to get them to process them as a whole bird and vacuum sealed, which is not too bad, but they were about an hour drive from us. So you think you're driving an hour over there, drop the birds off, drive an hour back home. The next day you'd go an hour back over there to pick them up, an hour back home. So that's 4 hours that you're down, and then you're paying $3 per bird on top of the cost that you already spent for feed and everything else to eat the birds ourselves back then. So we started looking into it, and we're like, well, it's not that hard to process a chicken. We just need the right equipment. And then we found a used plucker at a very reasonable price. And then I ended up buying a propane setup with a turkey fryer tank to be able to use as our scalding tank. And then Brittany's mom comes over and helps us, and
We give her a couple birds.
we give her a couple birds for helping out. And with that 4 hours that we were spending driving, we just went ahead and used that here at the farm and processed out the birds. So we used about the same amount of time, really, because we started at 9 in the morning and we were completely done by about 1 in the afternoon the last time that we did it. Not the first time. I mean, the first time it was figuring out the system and how everything functioned and getting things in the proper area so we weren't crossing over things all the time. So, and it worked for us. I mean, I work a full-time job, but my job's pretty flexible, and I'm only away from home about 100 and what, with vacation days and everything, about 103 days a year. So it's not too bad. So I have a little bit more time available than others do, and staying busy at the farm keeps me out of trouble. So we try to give the girls opportunities to learn about the different animals, and mostly just teach them to care for something besides themselves, and stay away from, it gives them a little bit of a break from electronics. There is too much of a push these days on those than other things.
The dog's dreaming.
We got a dog dreaming in the other room because he's kind of whining and barking a little bit. So
Chasing something probably in his dream.
What's that last comment?
Just mom saying they're good too.
Yeah.
They're very good too.
Yeah. So, and as far as the processing the meat birds go, we did a comparison last year of growing out Red Rangers versus Cornish Cross, and I know a number of other farms have done the same thing, and the results have varied. One may like the Red Rangers better, the other likes the Cornish Cross better. Ultimately, to me, it's what works for your situation. Last year, we liked the Cornish Cross better. They took less feed inputs, took less weeks during that feed input, because at 9 weeks we were averaging about a little over a 6-pound carcass in 9 weeks. But also there are things you have to look at when it comes to that. Also, you have to look at the weather you have going on in that 9 weeks, because when we bought the first batch and they got here in March, that 9 weeks did great, and put a nice carcass on the bird. But when it later in the year, late July, early August, when it's warmer around here and temperatures are in mid-90s and the humidity puts it over 100, those same birds don't do it as well. They don't tolerate heat very well at all. So you got to kind of watch that. Versus the Red Rangers are a little bit more heat tolerant. They take about twice the feed input though, and they take more weeks. I think we were averaging about between 10 and 12 weeks to get them up to size, and even then they were about four and a half pound, almost 5 pound carcass. So honestly, my personal opinion on the Red Ranger side of it was, if I'm going to raise them for meat, I might as well just go back to the Rhode Island Reds that we used to raise when we first started with chickens. And yeah, it takes me to about 18 weeks, and we would process off the roosters and still get that same amount of carcass, and they didn't take near the feed inputs as the
No, I can see
others
maybe
did.
if you had a big open area where you had chickens
Yeah,
just running,
like
the Freedom
poultry
Rangers
netting kind of thing.
may
Yeah.
do a lot better in
Right.
that setting and not
Yeah.
take quite as much feed.
True, but they were just they got moved the same, had the same opportunity as the Cornish Cross did, but didn't. And even when we cook the two different birds, to me the Cornish Cross has a better flavor and stays a lot
There was more juice in
juicier than the
the Reds.
Red Rangers did. So, and that to me, I mean, that's the ultimate goal for us was
Flavor.
producing it for meat. So if I don't have a good tasting product at the end and it cost me twice as much to raise it, it just didn't make sense for us to raise the Red Rangers. So we've went with the more of the Cornish Cross again this year. So, but I think we went for about hour and 35 minutes now, guys. So unless anybody else has any more questions, we're gonna go ahead and wrap this up. I've got to go to work tomorrow, so I still got to get the grill cleaned up from supper,
And the chicken's gotta be
and the
ran
chickens
in
got to get put in for the night too. So
and collect.
we appreciate everybody spending time with us. If you're not subscribed to our channel, please subscribe to it. We're getting close to that 300 subscriber marker, and we're making that push towards my goal of 500 for the year. Brittany's goal is a little bit higher than that, but
I'm pushing that 1,000.
yeah. So, but we appreciate the comments. We enjoy talking to you guys, and we'll see y'all on the next one. What do we got over there, real quick?
So, Jespy Farm just says thank you and see you next time.
All right, we'll see you next time. Also, thank you. Bye.